9th. That's some synchronicity there. And of course, as always, some synchronicity between the power trio here. We got Gladys. We got the B-League. I'm Senra. And how are you both doing?
Doing great. Great. Snowing in Colorado. It's great. I love snow.
And how are you both doing?
Giants are on a 1-game win streak, so let's go.
I mean, how many games have they won this year, and how many had not against Washington?
We're on a 4-game win streak against Washington.
Well, that's a good.
They're in the playoff hunt in that division.
It's all right.
Yeah, no one in that division is getting eliminated probably till week 17.
It's the tightest division in the NFL.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the Titans winning, losing that I believe they were tied entering this week, so that kind of separated them. And we know the Packers are going to win the NFC North. I suppose the AFC North might be the other more closely contested division for the exact opposite reason, that all the teams are really good.
No, it's not that tightly contested for first place now. No, because the Ravens are pulled it out yesterday. They're 6-2. They've lost 2.
Yeah, including a head-to-head already to the Steelers, right?
Yeah, so the Steelers are probably most likely, if they quit playing down to their competition, going to run away with that division. Although,
big if,
because saw it happen yesterday. Try to tell people Steelers play down to the competition. They, except for division games, if they're playing out of the division, they're going to play down to the competition. If they are ever a double-digit favorite, go for the under, because they are not going to make that. Dallas, who's playing like a guy that's been in the league for like 20 years and has never started a game, almost beat them, but for Minkah Fitzpatrick. So annoying.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly was probably the most.
You want to be a Giants fan? You want to be a Giants fan? You can join me. Come.
No,
come be a Giants fan with me. You worried about the Steelers at 8? No, come on, be a Giants fan.
No, thank you. No, thank you. I'm out.
It's okay. NFC North is awesome to watch while we're on that. It's especially when it gets to like December and that those fields start getting a little wet, a little heavy. Awesome games to watch when it hits that end of season and playoff spots are on the line. I can't wait for the next 6 weeks to unfold in that with the AFC North. It's going to be fantastic.
Although, I mean, who do you think is going to come out of there? I mean, the Bears are like diving, like taking. I don't even know what they're doing.
I said AFC North. I thought I said AFC. My bad. NFC North sucks as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't even worry about them. Sorry, Carl. That's just. How are the Bears 5-3?
I mean, they were 8-8 last year, so like they've just been able to. That's a good defense.
Their defense is pretty good, but I mean, Nick Foles, come on. Allen Robinson makes everyone look good, and he can't even make Nick Foles look good. I mean, that's bad because Allen Robinson's really good, and he can't make Nick Foles look good. So what does that tell you?
If a tree fell in the forest, would anyone know who the quarterback of the Bears was? They're terrible. Terrible.
Is it the quarterback or is it the coach's play calling? Or is it both?
You can only work with so much, right?
True.
Like,
this is true.
Nagy wasn't that great, but he wasn't that bad in Kansas when he was there as the offensive coordinator, right? Like, he wasn't that bad. And Alex Smith was fine when he was there. They're just bad. Like, David Montgomery is bad. Like, Cordarrelle Patterson's your best player. Your team is bad. I love Allen.
The offensive line also not that
bad,
good,
but like we can't talk about offensive lines and then go, well, Philadelphia, they should be doing more or less, or other teams that are banged up. This time of year, everyone's line's hurt, right? Dallas's line is hurt.
I don't even know if their line's hurt. It's just not good.
Baltimore's line is gashed up. Like, everyone's line is hurt, right? Like, the Jets, we'll touch on them in a bit, but like, their line is shattered at this point, and they have nothing going for them. Like, so as much as we can call a bad line, you've still got to work with what you've got and be better and plan for that. And Chicago is terrible. They are hard. Like, I like Darnell Mooney. This kid is fantastic. Miller's a shifty little player. Robinson's good. Jimmy Graham looks decent. Montgomery sucks. He sucks so bad. They are terrifying to watch. Every time Foles gets the ball, he just Bambi. He looks like Bambi. He's skittish and he's deer in headlights. Terrible. Bad.
So quick question for you both. This is kind of off the top. Sorry, didn't plan this. Are we all still under the assumption that the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL? Gladys may contend that.
No. I mean, I think they have the best quarterback in the NFL, but I don't think they're the best. I don't think they're the best complete team. I don't think they're the most complete team in the NFL. I would have to say, barring yesterday, that the Steelers are the best team. They have the better defense. They have the better O-line. They don't have the better quarterback. They have arguably James Conner. I would say that him and CEH are neck and neck, if not giving Conner a slight push. Although yesterday he was completely. They have better wide receivers. Chiefs have a better tight end. Yeah, I would have to say Steelers, as a complete team, are the best team in the NFL.
I mean, they are 8-0 for a reason, right? Like that's.
Yeah, I mean,
I was gonna say I feel like the two best teams in the NFL are pretty. Like it's that's where it's like an obvious line. I think the Chiefs and Steelers are the two best teams in the NFL, and after that, a lot of teams with a lot of different flaws have been exposed throughout the year. Even though a lot of good teams, whether you talk Ravens, Packers, Buccaneers, Seahawks, they've all kind of even Bills, Saints. They've all had moments where they haven't looked that great. So
I'll say this about Pittsburgh, because I think you both know that I am a fan of what they are doing. Giants, negative record. Broncos, negative record. Texans, negative record. Philly, negative record. Cleveland, Titans, Baltimore, Dallas, negative record. Bengals, negative record. They're coming up next week. Jags, negative record. Baltimore, Washington, negative record. Buffalo, Bengals, negative record. Colts, Browns. It's going to be hard to argue against them. With that,
the Steelers could go 16-0, is what you're saying.
I mean, look, Buffalo in week 14 and Baltimore week 12 and week 12. Sorry, so Baltimore week 12, Buffalo week 14. That schedule works very well for them, and they already have half a tiebreaker over the Ravens. But like we're looking at a team that could very well, go 14-2 at worst, and. Yeah, the schedule has worked for them. It's like Stan Fran last year, that everything broke in their favor. But I like the idea of Pittsburgh being the best team in the league. I think if Kansas wanted to, they could drop 50 on anyone at any given time, though. And I think that's the difference. I like what Pittsburgh do, but if Mahomes wanted to, he could kill a game in the first 5 minutes if he had to. He could. And I don't think Pittsburgh,
unless like yesterday doesn't get the ball for the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, well, that's a different story. But I kind of, if I had to trust last 5 minutes of a game, who do you think game's on the line, last 5 minutes to go, who do you trust, Mahomes or Roethlisberger? That's a hard one to answer, because Roethlisberger is amazing. He's had a hell of a career, but I mean,
I what you did. Like the first 5 minutes of the game, I would trust Mahomes. The last 5 minutes of the game, I would trust Roethlisberger.
Wow.
Roethlisberger has more
noose. I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
He has that clutch factor where at this point, there'd only be maybe 5 quarterbacks I would in that situation trust more than Roethlisberger. Maybe I'm being a little harsh on him, but
I would also think that Mahomes pulled the Chiefs out of into a Super Bowl win in that last 6 minutes as well. So
30. What do they put up in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, it's something ridiculous.
21 points, I think.
And they pegged back the 49ers the best defense in the league at that point. With everyone they had everything going for them. So,
But the 49ers also, I mean, I totally agree with that. But the 49ers offense.
Yeah, they weren't great.
We're going to hang with them.
Now, At a certain point, though, how much is that the Chiefs' defense just played really well in the second half, which I think that's why I think they're just as complete as the Steelers. Because, I mean, you compare that defense. I mean, you got Minkah Fitzpatrick, but you got Tyrann Mathieu. I mean, both players kind of from this X factor in the secondary that really like, these are elite level players with just natural instincts that can be anywhere and fill any role. Pass rusher, coverage, tackling. The great ball hawks. So when the ball does come, they can turn those into turnovers, whether it's through fumbling or interceptions. No Devin Bush. I mean, I think, if Devin Bush was there, I think the linebacking core, you definitely give it to the Steelers, but without him, I'd say that's a pretty much a wash. And then the defensive line, also probably a wash. I mean, if you had to, it came down to it, Cam Hayward and Chris Jones, who's the better defensive lineman? They both play different positions, more edge, more center, or more middle defensive tackle for Jones. But I don't know. I think both teams are incredibly close. And if to me the difference is quarterback is, I think, massive enough that's why I still think the Chiefs are the best team. Someone's got to beat them in the playoffs for me to not say that, basically, though, at this point.
Do you really want to be going to Pittsburgh in the middle of January? Nope. So that'll be fun. I think that'll be a fun one to see happen. That'll be pretty.
That'd be
cool.
an interesting AFC Championship game if that's what does happen.
That'd be pretty cool.
So I mean, we ragged on the NFC East a little bit, but the AFC East, I mean, two teams right now with combined 2 wins, entering Week 9, final stretch of Week 9.
It's a good segue. I like a good segue.
Thank you. Got the Jets, got the Patriots. In New York or New Jersey or where the Jets are at home, but also 10-point underdogs at home, and a combined over under of 41.5. So that puts the Jets at what, like 16 points?
They've given the Jets team total 16.5.
16, yeah.
Which is like what, 1 point higher than their average. Don't they average like 15 something a game, 15-7 or something like that a game?
They're not great.
Yeah, it's not pretty.
Funny enough, though, it's actually higher than what the Cowboys had this week.
What?
The Cowboys had like a 14.5 implied total.
That's generous as well. That would have been generous too.
I mean, and they almost didn't hit it, but they almost won the game simultaneously.
Exactly.
The Jets haven't scored more than 10 points since Week 4 versus Denver, and the Patriots have scored more than 12 points once since Week 4. So it's lovely here. It's amazing. It's like 75 degrees outside. It's incredible.
So this is going to end up being an 80-point game then, isn't it? Neither of these offenses score points, and that's going to be the...
If I can, I kind of like the Jets this week if they want to win. Like, and listen. There's no hiding that they're a bad team and they're losing every week. We can't hide how bad they are, but to think that the Patriots are that much better right now, we're essentially saying it's Belichick, it's McDaniel, and they're just going to get it done somehow. You're relying on Jacoby Myers and Damiere Byrd. That's what they're relying on, and Cam Newton to throw right. Like that's what they're hoping for. And by the way, they're going to rush on the Jets, who they weren't that bad against the Chiefs last week. Not that the Chiefs had to rush it to win a game. I'm not saying that's the case, but we're talking about a team that held Hilaire and Bell pretty well. They didn't do much. So if they're going to run on them, they're going to have to run on them. And Newton's a different animal when he runs. He looked pretty good against Buffalo last week rushing the ball, so I get that too. But you're going to throw on the Jets to win a game with a +10. Like, with Bird and Myers and Gunner something and Ryan Izzo, like that's what they're rolling with. That's terrible. And they've got the 26.5 team total. But like it's going to be a Rex Burkhead week for the Patriots. We can feel that, James White. But I don't know. I'm feeling the Jets at +10 if they wanted to win. But I think they'll cover. I don't think the Patriots are that. What are they going to do?
I think they'll cover too, and I think it'll go under. Yeah, because I mean, I honestly think it's a primetime game, and I can just see Greg Williams just throwing out everything, just because he's Greg Williams, and to stop the Patriots.
Yep.
And then they don't have that much that he has to worry about stopping anyway. So it's going to be like I think a low scoring game, but I can see the Jets covering, if not winning that game. If they
want to, that's the thing. If they wanted to, like, they don't want to win, do they? Like, they can't. If you believe that Darnold's not the guy,
well,
does that make sense? Like, that's what we're talking about right now. Like, every team wants to win. No one wants to go 0-16. No one wants to be like the Bengals and Lions for a few years. No one wants to be that. We understand. I get that, but like,
it wasn't even the Bengals. They don't want to be like that either.
No, but like, no one
Browns.
wants to lose games like that. Didn't the Bengals get close? They won 2 last year, right? 1 or 2.
Yeah, they've been close. I mean, the Cardinals had a 2-win season just a couple years ago.
Yeah, I know
too,
the Lions went 0-16, right?
Lions and Browns have done it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, they don't want to be that. They don't want to be that franchise. They kind of don't have a choice. But if you don't believe in Sam Darnold, as I said, he's won 7 games. Darnold's what? 11-21 as a Jet. That's so 11-21 in what, 3 years? That's bad. Like,
yeah.
I wouldn't blame them for going out and trying to get Trevor Lawrence, clear the shelves of like the salary cap and half their players. I don't blame them for doing it. Get rid of Gase at the end of the year. I get it. So winning isn't really something they want to do. That'd be terrible for them right now. But they could. And that's the predicament tonight brings, is the Jets very well could win tonight. I just don't think they want to. At some point, you got to hope that the Patriots in that last quarter take off.
And part of me thinks, again, I don't think Greg Williams is anything special as a defensive coordinator. I do see a scenario where the Patriots do actually cover the 10-point spread, and that narrative is you mentioned it, Dan. Cam Newton's got to win this game. He's got to take this game on himself and make the throws. And yeah, he's struggled to do that, but is this the defense that maybe he gets right against? Like, I do see the scenario where that happens.
Forget the last play of the game against the Bills last week. I thought he was pretty good against the Bills. I thought Newton was okay considering what he has at his. Imagine going from Carolina with some okay good, like towards the end, like he didn't really know what he had. That McCaffrey took off, wasn't really a part of it. Moore looked amazing, he wasn't really a part of it. Greg Olsen was on the downside. He's going, okay, I'm going to go to the Patriots with this amazing mind, and Josh McDaniels is here, and I'm going to like do this and trash. Like, that team is trash.
They wish they still had Bahamas to do now.
Right, like they made zero effort before the deadline to do anything. That team is like, I haven't seen a Patriots team that gashed. And to think Brady was okay with similar pieces, but he'd been in the system. We're talking about a guy who's come off the street, no preseason, no idea of this system, and they're 2-5, and they look terrible, and they're going to get worse. So you're hoping Newton, just goes for $120 on the ground for anything to happen. Or Damian Harris. I still think Rex Burkhead and James White will have something to do with this, but what are they? They drafted 2 tight ends like back to back. Was it Dalton?
And we haven't seen either of them.
Right? Was it Dalton Keene?
Dalton Keene and David Asiasi?
Right. Like, we're talking about a team that thought that was a good idea without a quarterback that was leaving them and thinking that it was Stidham or Hoyer. This is a bad franchise, and that the Jets will have to give this away for the Patriots to win it. That's where I'm at with this. I don't see why the Jets would lose with Crowder, Mims, Perryman. Perine's playing okay. Hernan's still about. Like, I don't even like the Jets. They're bad, but how do they lose this to that Patriots team? You gotta want to lose. You gotta want to lose, and
yeah, maybe that's a good point.
You've got to want to lose.
Mentioning Darnold's record, 11-21, right? Basically twice as many losses as wins. Brought up an interesting point, stat here, Dan. When you mentioned Gase's record, you're on the show sheet, 30-42. Like, that's not nearly as bad as what it looks like just Darnold alone, right? Like, I mean, and Gase did have a 10-win season with the Dolphins, and maybe that skews that. I mean, that's a third of the wins right there just in 1 year. But
they're 0-8 as well right now. Like,
you think about
at the start of the year, he was 30, He was 30-34.
I mean, there's been much worse records of late. Like you think about Gus Bradley and his tenure with the Jags, and Hugh Jackson, the 0-16 Browns, and then the 1-15 Browns. There was a stretch where they were 1-31. So he's been bad, but I guess he hasn't really been like absolutely horrible. I think fantasy wise, it gets overstated because unfortunately, one thing that has been prevalent with his offense is the slow pace of play, which has kind of limited fantasy ceilings across the board, basically every year. Like you've had they get the playoff with the Dolphins, Jay amazing for fantasy. He was an RB2 that year, and it was great. But outside of him, I think Kenny Stills was probably relevant too. But outside of them, it wasn't much else. And outside of those years with Gase, it's been kind of.
At some point, they were rolling for 6 weeks last year with. I know Trevor Siemian smashed his ankle when I forget. David Falk, I think David Falk.
Luke Falk.
Luke Falk was the quarterback for like 5 of those games as well. So if Sam Darnold, gets mono, or like someone breaks their ankle, like last year was a write-off, and they looked okay towards the end of the year. I'm not making a case for the Jets by any means, or Adam Gase. Like mono's mono, Darnold comes back, he wins a few games, they look good. They get him weapons, they upgrade their line, and they're 0-9, 0-8. Like, Darnold hasn't helped, and Gase hasn't helped, and a lot hasn't helped. But at the same point, like, they're both as bad as each other, and Gase is copying it. Good, but whatever. He's not going anywhere this year anyhow. It won't matter. Oh, no. I can't hear him.
Kyle, we can't hear you. No sound.
I'm glad it's
real
not
professional there.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
I was quietly freaking
I was gonna
out.
Say,
like, not again.
I was going to read the ad too, so it was good. But we're going to. Did you guys want to talk about props now? And the props are brought to you by BOSR.com/GoingFor2 for a 20% bonus offer when joining. So maybe you can use some of the stuff we're talking about tonight to join tonight and start betting on BOSR.com. So it's important for people to hear that and not be muted when I say that.
That's it.
Okay, so we've decided that we're taking the points, right, and the Jets, right?
I think
the Jets are going to
go plus 10. Yeah.
And going under.
Prime time.
Yeah, going with the under or the over. I'm going under. Or push. I don't think they're going to score more.
It's 45.5. That's pretty low. I actually think the over there. I think
41.5.
Sorry, 41.5. Yeah, even lower. Yeah, no, 41.5. I'm seeing it, but I said something different. But yeah, 41.5. I mean, both teams. I think both teams are capable of getting to 20 points. Just because
they're so bad.
I don't know that like the offenses are struggling, but the defenses aren't great either. And I think both poor teams meeting could, I think, maybe lead to more points than what they've both been accustomed to lately. So I'd actually be tempted to take the over more, but that's me.
Yeah, I mean, that could hit if the Jets hit over that 16.5. That's what they're predicting, right? If they're being given a 16.5, that's what they think their team total is. Anything over that's going to go close anyhow. So it could go over, but I also will not underestimate how bad the Jets want to lose. So I will lean under. I think they're good for 12 to 14, and the Patriots not much more. And there's going to be a lot of mistakes. And this game,
Flacco starting, right?
Yeah, and this game's going to go till about midnight, and and we're going to forget Week 9 ever existed.
What are the touchdown? What is the touchdown totals for Cam? Does it include the touchdown totals for Cam? It includes throwing and him running it in, right?
I didn't have Cam. I actually had Joe Flacco at 1.5, which I thought was more interesting because if that happens, then there's a huge chance that 16.5 hits. So if you believe they can do that, and remember, they've probably got the better team on paper, like at least on offense, right? Like Crowder's playing, Perryman's playing, Mims is playing, P. Ryan's playing,
yeah,
Gore's playing.
I go with that.
Just Flacco, but at the same time, if he can maneuver enough, that's why I thought, well, Cam Newton's going to hit for them to win. They're going to be over 1.5 anyhow. But I thought Flacco at 1.5 was an interesting one.
So yeah, if it's Cam at 1.5, I think that's definitely a smash over. think we could all kind of agree on that. Yeah, even Flacco. Yeah.
And they have Flacco for 216.5 passing. So if both, Cam at 205. So we're looking at a game with sub 420 yards to go over 41.5 points, which is something like, I forget who the kickers are, but they're going to have to work tonight. They're going to earn their bread.
Yeah, it could be that. Yeah, that's true.
Someone's getting hamstring tendonitis tomorrow. I know that much.
Flacco over 1.5.
Yeah, it's tricky. It is because there is. I mean, trying to think of the scenario. Are they gonna, are the Jets in a position to maybe run some touchdowns in, and that way, Flacco doesn't score. Where I think with the Patriots, if that's the case, then I guess we're thinking Cam might be that guy, so it's safer that way. Ryan and Gore, they think they can score a touchdown against the Patriots.
So put it this way. So they have, and this is where I kind of lean on this. The top receivers for the Patriots at 3.5 receptions each. And Cam's going to have to throw over 1.5 touchdowns with the total of 3.5. That's 7 receptions for his receivers.
So the top receptions for the Patriots. So besides Jacoby, who is the other?
Jameer Bird at 3.5. They're both at 3.5 receptions, both at around that 49-yard receiving yard range. So he's going to throw maybe 100 yards, 7 completions, and 2 touchdowns. We think that's madness. That's madness.
Yeah. Madness.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And that doesn't count like Burkhead, White, whoever else. But for Cam Newton to throw over 206, was it 206 I had him at?
Yeah, 206.
206.5. 206.5. You're hoping for a lot of chunk from Burkhead, White. Damian Harris might pull one out to the side. You never know. But that's what you're hoping for Cam to get to that. Does anyone believe that Cam Newton can hit 206.5 passing yards? I don't.
No.
I think he can, but I wouldn't want to make that bet. No, I would go the under there as well.
It's crazy. This game, for all the wrong reasons, this game is extremely interesting.
Yeah, these are. I felt last week there were easier ones, right? I don't know that we got any of them. The ones that are so obvious.
No, the Giants and Bucks game we landed most.
Oh, we did. Okay, yeah. Give ourselves credit. Sorry.
Yeah, we actually did it right last week. But this one, for what it's worth, we actually got everything pretty much right in terms of props, like player work. But in terms of, I think we had the Bucks actually handing it to the Giants at one point and thinking the Giants were going to come back at some point to level out. But for this, it's just one big cluster of. Yeah. You're thinking that the Patriots are going to get the 26.5. That's probably Cam Newton rushing 1, Damian Harris rushing 2, and a field goal here or there.
So Cam hasn't thrown for over 200 yards in any game this year. Over 200 yards. He hasn't thrown the Seattle game. He threw for 397 yards, right? So other than that game, that's an outlier. Take that game out.
That was Edelman going ham as well.
Yeah,
that's true.
174 is the most yards he's thrown, and that was last week. So, yeah, I'm going to go under, and Edelman's out, and so is almost everybody else. Yeah, I don't.
Harry's out as well.
And then Cam, I think it's obvious to go under on completions at 27.5.
Completions?
Yeah.
He's going to need 6 guys to dink and dunk to throw.
Why 27.5 passes? Much less have 20. I don't think he's going to have 27.5 attempts.
Yes, there we go. Right. So now, do we like Cam rushing for 50 yards? Because it's 49.5 here.
Yep.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So and that's that's where I think we're thinking the New England production comes from. It said, okay, so then keep going on the rushing yards. It says Damian Harris at 53.5.
Yep.
Okay, so then we do say on the ground.
He's good to break one out. He's been breaking off one every other week. That looks like he gets that 20, 30 yarder from nowhere. And I'd like him to do it at least once today.
Okay. All right. So the two things we do seem to like rush yards for both Cam Newton and Damian Harris. Look on the other side. LaMichael Pirine, 33.5 rush yards.
Crazy.
That does seem really low for.
Crazy.
I mean, it's him and Gore, right? I mean, I don't know.
It is him and Gore. That's it. 33.5. What did they have Gore for?
About the same. It was about the same. He might have been 29.
They also have Ty Johnson, who played 11% of the offensive snaps last week. But yeah, P. Ryan, they had him at 50% last week, 70% the week before, 58 the week before that. So he's out there more than Gore. So I like it on P. Ryan more than I do like it on Frank Gore, I think. I know part of that's also
complete yards, like passing and rushing?
No, just rushing.
Yeah, then definitely. Oh. No, it's just rushing?
Yeah, sorry, it's just rushing at 33.5, yeah.
I don't know, because like P-Ryan's been on the field more than Gore, like a lot more than Gore snap counts, but he's under rushed in yardage than Gore.
Just being pigeonholed as the pass catcher.
Yeah, so 33.5. He had 27 last week
against the Chiefs, and they were just everything went out the window in that game. This could be a tighter game where he actually, I don't know, gets the ball. This could be anyway. Especially
if the belief is the Jets will be within 10 points.
Yeah, I still like Crowder at 5.5 receptions, 55.5 yards. I think that's a given. They're not throwing
Crowder.
Yeah, they're not throwing Stephon Gilmore on a slot receiver. That's not happening.
No,
that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
so I think Crowder for 5.5 and 55.5 is as close to a lock. I kind of like that.
I do like that one.
Yeah.
10 yards a carry. I mean, 10 yards. They're basically carries with him. 10 yards a reception. Like, yeah, that's doable. I think. Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah.
Mims and Perryman at 2.5 each, and I'm guessing right around 30 yards each. Like, those are tempting too. It's funny, we're not crazy about the quarterbacks. We like all the receivers because each of them are all individually so low that any of them could easily hit it. It would require all of them to kind of hit over them all for those quarterbacks to reach, I think. So it's maybe less risk in going each of the receivers.
It's a crazy game to look at. This, again, for all the wrong reasons, this game is extremely interesting. This is terrifying. Everything is like, you want to think under on everything because it's just so bad. But like Perryman at 29.5 yards, like if they've got him at 2.5 receptions, 3 receptions or whatever, like he's not going for a 5-yard out. Like that's not happening. He's going long. He could break the over on 1 reception. That's
exactly. Yeah.
Flacco can get it to him. He's going over on 1. So this is
what's Mims at?
I'll have to double check on that, but I think it was around the same. I think they were both landing at around 29.5 yards. I'll double down on that for you, though.
You almost could make the argument Mims could do that same thing, right? Get all that in one. I know he's maybe not as refined of a deep, well, certainly not as refined as a deep threat as Perryman is this far into his NFL career. Mims having played, 2 games now?
Mims at 2.5 receptions seems almost like...
Yeah.
It almost seems, I don't want to say doable, but it's kind of doable with Flacco.
Yeah, no, I definitely think so too. I think all 3 of those receivers hitting their reception marks and probably all 3 of them hitting their yard marks, actually. I think I'd go over on all of them.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But again, still not crazy about Flacco at 216 yards. We're hesitant there, but again, it's just because that requires everything to hit. Whereas each of these receivers, all you need, you bet on each of them, all you need is one of them to hit to kind of have that prop go.
Again, so like if you're looking at Perryman, Mims, and Crowder, if Crowder hits his 55, Perryman hits his 29, Mims hits what? I'm about to find out. I'm pretty sure it's about 29 as well. That still has Flacco at maybe 130 yards. So he needs a lot to go in his favor for that to even get close to hitting 2. And that's like maybe P. Ryan does some work as well. But, that's... asking for that to happen and everything to go well. I don't know.
And I mean, you look over to the Patriots side. Like I do like Myers at 3.5 receptions and 50 yards, 50.5 yards receiving. I know it's maybe a little tricky to get to that yardage mark, but
here we go.
I mean, I think for sure he's going to get 3.5. Like he's going to get 4 catches. I think he's gotten 16 targets over the last 2 weeks.
Rex Burkhead over 9.5 yards. Like that's.
I mean,
that's crazy.
Yeah, that might be the most obvious over of all of them, right?
Mims at 30 and a half.
But
Like some of these,
Bellatrix kind of almost stipulates there's a chance he could see 0 snaps on offense because they want to give it all to Harris, and then he doesn't hit it, right? There's
that's and they got you said P Ryan before, right? P Ryan's at 2.5 receptions and 13.5 receiving yards.
Doable.
Yeah, I mean that's not again. You add that to it, right? Like Flacco's really not getting to that 216. So yeah,
they're all so low that they seem doable, but then you take into account how bad they both are, and it throws you right off.
Because someone's got to not hit, right? Like one of these players isn't going to reach these low.
You watch Chris Herndon's I just saw 15.5 receiving yards. Chris Herndon, and he's done nothing all year. And you look at it, you're like, in this game, maybe. This is madness.
Although I do think the Patriots have kind of been taking away tight ends a little bit. Like that, I wouldn't say this is the game for Herndon.
Yep, they probably have. But what? Yep, I got nothing. This one.
It's tough to make arguments in favor of Herndon, to be honest. So to your credit,
the overs should hit, while the quarterbacks hit unders on everything, which.
Except rush yards for Cam, right? And that's again different from everything else.
Passing yards should be unders, and the receivers should hit overs. That's how low they all are. It's crazy.
Also, did we mention James White at 3.5 receptions, 23.5 yards? Because I think
I kind of like that one. There's one of my favorites is on here in a second. We'll get to that soon, but I kind of like James White to do that. It seems like his rushing yards, I think he's had like 40, 50 rushing yards for the year. He's really done nothing. So if he is to get moving, it's going to be in the air. And that's, again, for anything for Cam to get over, they're going to need those chunk plays. And I think Burkhead and White are going to be those two guys that do it. But again, Burkhead at 9.5 yards, that's crazy. I don't know what to think right now. This is madness.
So what is your favorite prop then that you really like?
A safety at $8.50. I think safety's happened. A safety.
Really?
Yeah, I kind of like it. Someone's going to do something stupid, and I think this is the game for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's never underestimate the unpredictability of stupidity, and a safety at $8.50 seems about right.
I was wondering.
I like that.
Yeah.
Why not? I mean, it's got all the makings of like a punt game going right, and Flacco on his 2-yard line trying to do something stupid, and he's going to get taken. I could just see it's going to happen.
Now, I'm curious. So the Mims Perryman receptions, does that like both of them need to hit 3 receptions for that one to cover?
Both at 2.5. Yeah.
Yeah. Even combined, I like that. Obviously, individually, I think those would be like the most obvious plays. But even both combined, I think both of them can catch 3 passes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be the one I think if I had to pick one, absolutely, it'd probably be that one. Even if it is 2 players.
I even looked at like total sacks for both teams at 4.5, and you're thinking Cam can got behind the line. Like that's also feasible at this point. I don't like betting on sacks, but Jets are terrible. Flacco's going to run for his life and maybe throw it away out in time. But
yeah, he's not someone that can escape if the pressure gets too bad. Like that could be unless he is smart enough to get rid of it quickly, which I mean he could be.
He could be. He could be. It's a lot of things he could be. And that's.
I'm guessing Elite's not one of them, though.
Nah, well, I mean, come on. He's an elite company. How about that? But at the same time, again, like a safety, like I'm looking at these ones, it's just a little bit odd and a little bit out there. And a safety at $8.50 or total sacks by both teams at 4.5, so they both have to hit 5. I mean, if everything goes wrong for the Patriots, that very well could happen too.
Anything else about Monday night that we want to discuss? I think. Are
you guys going to watch? That's what I want to know. Are you guys actually tuning in for this one?
That's still up for debate.
I'm binging Cougar Town. on Prime, so probably not.
My wife and I might try and finish Schitt's Creek tonight. I'm still in the last season, so
We're almost done. Nice. Yeah.
so.
My sister.
So these are the things instead of watching Monday Night Football. We're great. We're great on this football show.
It's crazy.
So I guess we'll get to the rest. I mean, recapping the rest of the games.
Can we? Can we move on?
Yes, we can. We can move on. Oh, look at this. Guess what's first? Giants 23. The Teamies 20. I don't know. Whatever their name. They can call themselves whatever they want. Well, except
hang on. Let me clarify. I got the order of this from the NFL app. That was the first game that came up.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it was the first game that finished. So that's why it went up there. I'm guessing.
Well, I don't because I mean the Panthers Chiefs, which is the second game, was I believe that was the last game to finish.
That went forever. That was good.
So
a good game to watch.
That's not it. I'm sorry, but that's okay. Well, what do you want to say about the game?
I'll say this. I said it offline. The Giants against the Bucs were starting 3 rookie linemen: Lemieux, Thomas, and Pert. Right. I'm very happy with how that trio is coming along. I couldn't be happier for Joe Judge, the disciplined Golden Tate. He's really got a hold on this team. That's a 10-year vet that he basically sat at home because the guy outspoke and his wife said some things online. He said, no, we're not having that here. You're out. Austin Mack comes in, breaks off a 50-yard touchdown. That's what happened. The guy, and by the way, the Giants also picked up Dante Pettis last week as well. So this is one of those things where the line is holding up better. They pretty much kept the Bucs at bay. And I know Jones got hit a few times by Washington, but that's going to happen. They're going to do that to a lot of teams. No turnovers. Like, Giants looked okay. And, it is what it is. It's not the first time we've hurt a quarterback in our division, Dak Prescott, and now Kyle Allen. So the defense is a little nasty. I like it a little bit, but, I don't think there's more questions about the Giants. It's more what the Washington team are going to do with their quarterback. Because Alex Smith doesn't look right. I don't care what anyone says. I'm happy for him. Fantastic. They can't run him out again. He has to be like, in case of an emergency, bring him out. Surely they go to Haskins this week. Surely.
Because
unless they're on the bye, and I get that too, but surely Dwayne Haskins gets back in there. They have to find out.
I mean, and again, he's got 2 weeks to kind of just show it, and it's not like they can trade it for anybody. So they're, other options are picking up guys off the street.
Seems to work for Dallas a little bit.
Well, they didn't win, so
they covered the spread, and they should have probably won that game. But yeah,
a game which they shouldn't have probably won. So that tells you. I guess that's a success, right?
They shouldn't have even been in.
Yeah, I like that Dallas lost again. The Giants won, and we still have a higher draft pick at this point. That's great. They beat us, but we don't play them till week 17 again. So if our records stay the same, maybe Colt McCoy gets out there. Who knows? But I think I want to see what Washington do now with Haskins. I think that's what's gonna be interesting to see what happens with them for the rest of the season. We'll see. I think I don't think you want Alex Smith starting if you don't have to have him starting ever.
Unfortunately, what Kyle Allen was bringing was stability to the quarterback position, not really wondering every week, right? I mean, it seemed like if he was healthy, he was going to ride out the rest of the season as the starter. They were going to look any other direction. Now I think it may hurt because we saw Cam Sims have such a great game this week, 100-yard game. But I do wonder if this hurts the upside of basically every receiver there except McLaurin. Like it seems like he's going to be consistent just because he's going to see the targets. And yeah, maybe his overall upside gets hurt if they're switching back and forth through quarterbacks. But I feel like, to me, I can't trust any Washington receiver that's not McLaurin. Like I don't really roster anyone that's not McLaurin. Even McLaurin, I think I only got him in one league. So it's like where's the fantasy upside there outside of McLaurin?
If Alex Smith stays in, you're saying if Alex Smith stays under center?
Or doesn't he? I'm saying just overall, really.
Well, I think if Alex Smith stays under center, the fantasy upside goes to J.D. McKissick because he's his check down. He threw it to him like 13 times for a check down, and that's the most action that he's seen. McLaurin, like you said, will be fantasy relevant just because he is getting so much of the target share. If Haskins comes back, I would throw Logan Thomas in there too. He liked him. He threw to him a lot. So, I don't honestly see. I don't see them putting Haskins back in. You honestly think they might throw Haskins back in?
I don't know. I don't think you want Alex Smith to be out there if you don't have to have him out there. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. It's nothing to do. Listen, that field just ate Alex Smith's leg for 2 years, and now Kyle Allen's had the same fate. Like, do you really want a guy who can barely move? He's doing well, and he looks great, like, for everything, all things considered. If the year is a wash, why risk his health? Throw the other guy out there. And look, Haskins might come out and do something. And, like, Steven Sims with Haskins looked all right towards the end of the year last year too. I thought Steven Sims was okay. It's his first game back in about 6 weeks. 7 weeks maybe. So I think you're right with Logan Thomas and JD McKissick. Antonio Gibson still seems to be trudged out there, and he's doing all right. He had 20 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
That's still 10 points maybe with it. What did he have receiving? I'm looking here. 35 yards receiving. He still had 12, 13 points. Like, I said it before, it's they're who cares on one hand and so what on the other, and that's what they look like right now. And I think who cares if it's Smith and so what if it's Haskins? I just think they'll go with so what this time. I think they need to find out that if listen, they dropped the first round pick on this kid, and it's not like first round picks don't bust, but at the same point, maybe things, with the off season not working the way it did for a lot of teams, maybe Haskins has had a bit more time to settle and work with those guys. And maybe I know from a human standpoint, I would never want to see Alex Smith out there unless he has to be. Like, that's all it is.
And to that credit, I mean, you can't tell me Kyle Allen's better than Alex Smith. I mean, Alex Smith is a great quarterback, right? So okay.
I wouldn't. Not now, not ever. Listen, Kyle Allen.
Oh, I thought you said you would. That goes better.
No. Oh my God, no. Listen, Kyle Allen was a fantastic pickup, all things considered. It was a 5th round pick for a guy that knew their scheme with no off season. It was one of the better moves that no one spoke about because it gave them, as Gladys said, stability. It gave them everything they needed because if they weren't sold on Haskins, they had Plan B ready, and if Alex Smith was ready, they had Plan C ready, and Plan B broke his ankle. And Plan C is something. It dislocated his ankle. Plan C is if you really want him there or not. They still have Plan A there. And they're looking away from Plan A, which is crazy. Give him another shot. Maybe he becomes trade bait at the end of the year. Maybe
just get him out there to look good enough to impress for another team. Yeah,
that's it. Arizona got a second for Josh Rosen, right? From Miami. Get something for him. Like, you can get something for him. If a team believes in him, like, get something for him. You're saying the Colts, if they have Phillip Rivers for another year and they can get Dwayne Haskins for a 4th? A 4th round pick for a guy that's been in the league for a couple of years who's younger than most.
They just spent a 4th round pick on another quarterback that may never play in Jacob Eason, right? I mean, never play, right? So
there you go. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. I mean, the Bears, right? I mean, we were talking how bad Foles and Trubisky were, right? I mean, like, if that's and I mean, it contract wise, Trubisky's on the Bears next year, right? I mean, they could eat some dead cap and cut him, so they almost have to build around Foles, so you don't really want to bring in an expensive free agent. So trade for a rookie still on his contract. Move from Trubisky to another rookie that, that only had 1 year starting in college as well. And it has, still evolving in the NFL, but you push back the clock on that rookie contract and you get a couple of years of Haskins instead with Foles there, right? I mean, maybe, I don't know, I see that making sense for the Bears. But yeah. So yeah, I guess we'll have to see coming out of the bye week what Washington decides to do. Chiefs 33, Panthers 31. As I mentioned, this game went on for a while.
Awesome.
It took if Joey Slacks that kick at the end, that's a record for longest field goal made ever in NFL history. So it was definitely dramatic. Now, big news to come out of this is CMC right at the end, and I was watching. It was on that final drive, kind of hurt his shoulder. So finally, fantasy managers get him back. He scores 2 touchdowns, 100 yards from scrimmage. Ho hum, like, oh yeah, it's Christian McCaffrey's back, and yeah, maybe without him once again.
So Mike Davis owners are just really excited again, unless they dropped him, which
yeah,
I hope they didn't. Yeah.
But,
I mean, Bridgewater looked good in that game. Teddy Bridgewater, I think, has looked surprisingly good this year, except for the Atlanta game. He's had a good year that is going unnoticed, I guess, or underappreciated.
The rest of that
coach, yeah.
The rest of that division is there's so much drama with the other 3 teams. No one's noticing what Bridgewater does. I think you're right. I think he's had a really good year.
I mean, even the Atlanta game, because there was one game where he kind of got hurt. He stayed in and kept playing. Was that the Falcons game? So
it was the Falcons game. He went out. He got hurt. He went out for like a play, and then he went out for a series, and then he came back in.
I wonder if maybe he wasn't 100%, and that maybe was why he played so poorly. Again, that's my Jacoby Brissett, argument for why he looked so bad at the end of last year and how the Colts wasted $25 million bringing in Rivers when Brissett was probably better suited. But that's my hill to die on. I won't bring you guys into that. But yeah,
I think I thought the best thing to come out of this was before the game. That's going to be a split between McCaffrey and Mike Davis. No, it's not.
Technically, as pass catcher, because didn't Mike Davis catch like 5 passes?
Yeah, but McCaffrey had 10. So, and 82 yards and a touchdown receiving. Mike Davis had 34 yards, 5, and he had 1 rushing attempt.
So,
yeah, Curtis Samuel probably ran the ball more than Mike Davis. So
he had 3 attempts to 1, 13 yards.
Yeah, tripled him up.
Bridgewater had more attempts and yards than Mike Davis, so at rushing.
So, but again, Mike Davis may come right back into relevancy.
You'd be pretty happy.
Dan also wrote on the show sheet, DJ Moore disappearing act. I know for myself that I started doing this maybe a couple weeks too late, but it was a couple weeks ago where I started ranking Robbie Anderson ahead of DJ Moore every week. It does seem as though DJ Moore is kind of in that touchdown dependent territory where he's probably not catching more than 5 passes a game, and you hope that the yardage is monster or that he scores a touchdown or both. Long touchdown. He seems to be the way with him, whereas Robbie Anderson's kind of getting consistently 6, 7, 8 catches every game. So
it is kind of strange because even in the Atlanta game, they didn't even look DJ Moore's way the first half, or Teddy Bridgewater didn't hit DJ Moore's way the first half. So, but Anderson didn't have that many catches either, I don't think. But I mean, I think once Robbie Anderson started being relevant in that offense, DJ Moore just naturally took a backseat. Maybe.
Yeah, so the last few weeks it feels like Moore's been left behind. I think that's what it feels like watching, and Anderson's out targeting him, more yards, all that. Curtis Samuel the last 2 weeks also has been the predominant figure receiving as well. Another 100-yard game yesterday. Another 2 touchdowns, was it? No, he had another touchdown, but he didn't have the rushing touchdown yesterday. But like the week before as well, Samuel was the guy that basically took over in that regard, and Moore, again, kind of left it late to get any sort of garbage time points in fantasy, I think. So I don't know why I see why people, like what you've just said, Kyle, I see why people would like DJ Moore to be the better receiver, because on paper, sure, I get it, but Anderson's clearly the guy that they're using more and frequently, and there's no need to. I don't know what reason we're putting Moore in ahead of him now at this point. I don't see it.
And it is funny because going into this, the only receiver that Bridgewater actually had played with was Anderson when a brief time with the Jets, right? I mean, that was, not even played with, but training camp, at least through the football too. So entering this year without really an offseason, it almost made sense that Bridgewater would naturally gravitate towards Anderson, the one guy he's at least thrown passes to consistently before training camp this year.
I mean, on the same note, I'll ask you both this. Prior to this week, who would you have ranked higher per week, Keelan Cole or DJ Chark?
I mean, do you even need to ask? It's obviously Chark, right? But
it hasn't been. It's been Keelan Cole up until week 9. Keelan Cole was a wide receiver 35, Chark like 45 or something like that. Like that'd have been happening.
DJs
right?
were almost in sync, right? Like both of them just not getting that many targets. Like DJ Chark was the same thing. He was only catching 4 or 5 passes a game. But if he got the touchdown, the big yardage, great. But if not, it wasn't great
most of the time. Yeah. So like we've been ranking these guys higher because of what we think we know. And for 8 weeks, it's been anything but. So
now, great transition here, Dan, because Jake Luton in as the Jaguars quarterback. Fortunately, they lose 27-25 to the Texans, but it does seem as though Luton, 12 targets for DJ Chark? So he's decided, no, I'm making Chark the guy.
Smart move. It's a smart move.
I mean, they almost won against a really bad defense, but it certainly made Luton startable. But, I had him the unfortunate mishap of having Minshew in a league, but was able to pick up Luton and started him, and it turned out pretty well. But it's going to be. I think that'll be an offense where outside of Chark, it's going to be really tough to find who that number 2 is going to be, because I believe who saw more targets. Was it Keelan Cole or was it Chris Conley who suddenly played a lot more?
Chris Conley had 8 targets. Yeah.
8 targets. Yeah.
And up to this point, the only time Chris Conley had played heavy snap time on the field was when DJ Chark was out. He was not really being used. Then when Chark was injured, he came back in. So it also kind of a shift of we're going to get Chris Conley on the field more. So unfortunately, it does seem like Keelan Cole's now the third fiddle at the very least.
Chris Conley's a mess, but we're talking about like Jaguars having sort of just some balance to it. Conley gets the second most targets with 8. Tyler Eifert, Chris Thompson. That at the start of the year, if you had said it's going to be Chark, then Conley, Eifert, then Thompson, that would seem right. So in terms of balance with what you've thought, like it's not O'Shaughnessy, Colin Johnson, it's not Keelan Cole, like Chenault, okay, whatever happens with him, but yet one reception, I think, from one target. I think he got hurt, right? Yeah. So if you had a thought like how did Jaguars receivers look, week 1, you would have said something like Chark, then Conley, then Eifert, then Thompson. And this is like the first time I can remember in a while where it went how you would think it would for them. But again, I mean, James Robinson, another 100 yards rushing and a touchdown. So, 2 rushing touchdowns for them. Luton has 1 as well.
I mean, he's starting to, especially if McCaffrey missed another week, is like he's for sure a top 10 running back every week. Like he's creeping into maybe even being a top 5 option every week.
He was, I think, before last week, the RB3 for the year. Well, and obviously, some players also got hurt. Saquon, Kamara missed. I think Kamara missed time. McCaffrey missed time. Cowboys turned to garbage. So Zeke's losing out. Like Robinson's legit. He's legit.
From one Robinson to another, we've already talked Allen Robinson, but Bears lost 24-17 to the Titans. I think we've talked about the Bears enough, but I don't want to mention anything about the Titans. I know I had Jonnu Smith really high. I had him at tight end 3 this week just because, the Bears being notoriously that's the one area to exploit. And, he bailed it out with a touchdown. But still, it's unfortunately the Jonnu Smith hype from the start of the year seems to be fading. And I think definitely, no longer, because he was a top 3. I mean, I think there was one point where he was the number 1 overall tight end through 2 or 3 weeks of the season. So, it seems like he's maybe back to the best being a back end tight end 1.
Yeah, I think he is. It's weird because you watch them play and you think it's a Corey Davis week every other week. Sometimes hasn't it been? Corey Davis has stepped up for them too, and then out of the blue, like it's a Jonnu Smith week and he goes off. And they're a weird team to watch. They're fun to watch. Tannehill's kind of interesting, but Jonnu Smith is lights out incredible. He's one of the better tight ends to go. He reminds me of like. I'm probably wrong because player comparisons are something that I'm absolutely terrible at, but I just remember watching like Julius Thomas, and I kind of see a little bit like a young Julius Thomas in him. And Thomas was fantastic. I kind of see a little bit of that in Jonnu Smith. I know that's probably the wrong comparison, but I kind of see like that touchdown like animal in him. And I remember Julius Thomas, like with those touchdowns where they came, they were like, he was an absolute machine with that. And I kind of see that with Jonnu Smith. He could be that way too.
Jonnu Smith is a great athlete. Like you see the spark scores and how he's tested the combine, and he's fast and he's got that athleticism. And last year there was a play where he took a screen pass to the house for like over 50 yards.
Probably against Jacksonville. So what does it matter?
Yeah, maybe. Honestly, I think it might have been against the Saints, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Yeah, just part of my Jonnu Smith hype in the narrative.
There we go.
Speaking of the Saints, and that's not the Saints game here, but there's a Saints player that comes into question here. This is a really good question asked by Dan. Vikings 34, Lions 20. Now, Dalvin Cook, 200 scrimmage yards, 2 touchdowns this week. Second straight game for that. It was 4 the week before. 21, 101. Oh, in redraft or probably even dynasty startup as well. A lot of people are going to be asking themselves, Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey, or Alvin Kamara. So,
if I can preface this, I asked this last week. I tend to do this. I like to ask the same question week after week because football's a volatile game, and that's the whole Pittsburgh Steelers receiver thing was silly. But my point was proven that you asked the Steelers this week. Juju was the better one this week, right? So, there we go again. But I asked this last week, and it was late, and we kind of really didn't touch on it. But after this week again, McCaffrey got hurt again. Kamara still looks like an animal, and Cook's been going berserk. So I thought I'd ask one more time. I'm going to listen to Gladys on this one. No pressure.
So who would I draft first in fantasy next year?
Yeah, 101. Dynasty and redraft.
In redraft. If I had to pick a running back, and I was drafting 101, I would draft Dalvin Cook first.
Wow.
He's on a team who's averaging 20 passes a game, so he's going to get the yards, whereas Kamara is getting the passes, but I don't know that he will if Thomas – I don't know if Kamara's production would be as good if Michael Thomas was healthy the whole time and on the field. So I think it's an aberration that he's doing as well as he is. I think he's really good, and I think he's worthy of consideration for number one. But I think that production is skewed because Thomas has been hurt. Whereas Cook, they're going to stick with what they have. Cousins is averaging like 22 passes a game. They're going to just give Cook the ball. But, in all my redrafts, I drafted Patrick Mahomes first if I had the first pick this year. So I'd probably do the same thing next year. I'm not going to lie.
Even in a super flex perspective, certainly can't blame someone going QB 101.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. So the same thing with Kamara. We'll go back to that. His year wasn't great last year with injuries, right? It was the ankle. And Michael Thomas went ham as a result. We look at the vice versa. This year, Thomas is out. Kamara goes nuts.
Right.
McCaffrey getting hurt bothers me a lot. It bothers me a lot that he's getting hurt. That's twice now. And I know they're not linear. Like, I understand that it's not the same injury that he had, so I get that. So it's just unlucky. That's all it is. I think in redraft, I like what I'm seeing from Carolina. And I think what we're seeing from the Vikings when Cook does this is them at their best. I think we're yet to see the Panthers and McCaffrey this year with this team at their best, with what they can do. So I would probably still lean McCaffrey.
New coach. And I was going to say that too. If the fear...
for everything that Gladys just said, she's bang on right, because Cook very well could and should be, the way he's playing, be the 101, and people are going to go back to his injury before he played for the Vikings, and they're going to lean on that. But he's been healthy pretty much since, and the other two have been picking up nicks and knacks along the way. So I just thought I'd put this one in there.
Wow, I mean McCaffrey. I mean Cook was hurt just a couple weeks ago.
Was he really?
Yeah, he missed that game. Remember Madison started?
One game.
So,
I
don't know. I mean, to be honest, I mean Cook's the one that's been most consistently injured out of the three. And I think if McCaffrey didn't hurt his shoulder, to me, it's an obvious play. It's him, and to discount McCaffrey over an injury and put Cook up because of injury, I don't really get that. So I also still lean McCaffrey. I think the problem with Cook is that team just in general doesn't pass enough, which is great for him in that he gets so many rushing attempts, but he's never going to catch passes like to the amount that McCaffrey or even Kamara does. Like, as much as, Cook 200 yards of scrimmage, 2 straight games, but he's never going to do the 1,000, which again, it's only been 3 times, right? So, we could probably, to assume McCaffrey can even do that again is probably not a safe bet, like for him to even replicate that, but he still has that potential, I think. And I don't think these injuries are going to stop it. I mean, I'm much more concerned about a high ankle sprain for running back than a shoulder injury. So if he came back with an ankle sprain and he looked amazing, I got no fear with McCaffrey. So I'm 101 next year. I'm still going with Christian.
Yeah, there was a stat that I saw yesterday where when Kyle Allen was under center in Carolina last year, McCaffrey got the ball out of the backfield like 56% of the time that they leaned on him. And then when Teddy Bridgewater, although it's a smaller sample, he was only like 24 to 36%. So it all depends. I mean, I can see them just using him until he's used up, which the way it's going isn't going to be that long if they continue to play him and he continues to get injured.
Well, the way they paid him this offseason. You're happy to
Well, it's funny. All 3 of them got paid this offseason.
Yeah.
Or I guess, yeah. It was McCaffrey last year. Or was it this year? It was this year. Yeah.
It was this year.
That's not good for my Giants and Saquon Barkley. We're gonna do something stupid. I know it. So, I can feel it. They're gonna pay him too much off the back of an ACL. It's gonna happen.
And I mean, I do think that we still have close to there's a few weeks left in fantasy before the fantasy playoffs, and I still think there's some things that could change. Like, what if all of a sudden Clyde Edwards-Helaire comes out and starts scoring touchdowns, like how Damian Williams has kind of famously done at the end of the year? And I mean, does he start creeping into that conversation if he just finally starts finding the end zone and putting up monster fantasy performances?
No. And
okay.
I'll say I wasn't big on Hilaire. Not the talent. He's incredible. He's awesome to watch. This has nothing to do with the player. It comes down to how they use running backs. They're just not that team that are going to give a guy the ball 300 times like Dalvin Cook, McCaffrey, whatever. They're not going to do that. They're going to give him 220 a year and maybe 50 targets a year, and that's it. I don't ever see that coming from him. I think it was like Kareem Hunt when he was having that year. He was on track for I think he was on track for 50 targets, receptions, whatever it may have been. The year after that, it was like average around 220 rushing attempts, 50 targets. Like, that's how they spread it out. It's fairly consistent. And you throw in Damian Williams next year, Le'Veon Bell maybe coming back again. I just don't see a reason for him to creep that high. Again, I would think someone like Miles Sanders could. I think if he can come back and get into that habit and be that boost the Eagles need, he could be a guy that could be, I don't know, how long is Sanders out for? I don't remember. I forget how long he's out for. He's got to be.
I don't think they put him on injured reserve, so they may expect him back after the bye week.
So, like, Sanders is a guy the back in the year who has an extremely soft schedule, starting with the Giants. They get Washington again. I'm sure they've got Dallas twice, right? They've got a soft schedule coming back. Sanders is the guy that could come out and just blow up the NFC East himself, right? So he's a guy I could see that has a massive back half of the year that could creep into that conversation. And he was like borderline, like low end second round, I think, in ADP this year, right? So he'll be close if he has that big back half of the year. That could be that guy, but I don't think it's going to be Hilaire. I'd be surprised. I'd be very surprised.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair with Hilaire. So quickly get into final game results. Ravens 24, Colts 10. You had the Bills 44, the Seahawks 34. The Seahawks actually scored 34 in that game. I know they were down by quite a bit, but that's Russell Wilson actually. Falcons 34, Broncos 27. Another game where that was up. Falcons up by a lot. Broncos make it interesting at the end. Raiders 31, Chargers 26. Anything to say about any of those games? Anyone want to mention any players quickly?
Chargers can't win a game to save their life. They're like schlep rock right now. No matter what, they're down double digits at their head. They cannot win.
Full circle, because we didn't actually talk about this at the start of the episode. Yeti Express DFS. So, I think we basically said no. And I would almost say not even AFC. I think NFL in general. These are the two best teams in the league, Steelers and Chiefs. And I do think it's maybe a bit of a tier break before anyone else.
Green Bay need to tighten up, but they could. They need to tighten up what they're doing, but they could. I think if Rodgers looks great, happy for him, fantastic. But they need to tighten up for them to take the next step, I think. And I know you're the resident Packer, but I don't know if I'm wrong in saying that. They need to tighten their screws a bit more for them to be contenders.
I mean, the run defense has been atrocious. I could rant about Packers, but basically since they lost Mike Daniels, they have not properly replaced him.
Martinez. What?
I mean, I think actually at linebacker they've been fine. Kamal Martin as a rookie has done really well. Chris Barnes also as a rookie has shown quite well, and once they get Christian Kirksey back, so I'm fine with them letting go of Martinez to sign Kirksey for less. I actually thought that was a brilliant move. Kirksey's actually probably better in coverage too. So is Barnes to a certain extent. Like I don't know if Martinez. I've noticed that with the Giants, but I know coverage was really his weak point, and I feel like the Packers want linebackers, especially in the middle, to be good in coverage. So that's why they let him go. It's
worked out well for both. Martinez has been fantastic for the Giants. He's been fantastic. He's exactly what they need.
As a tackler, run stuffer. He's a tackling machine, and that was always really great for the Packers. But I think they wanted a more diversified role from that middle linebacker spot. I think it's on the defensive line. Like Kenny Clark has not really been playing great at all this year, and he was hurt for the part of the year, and he's come back, but not really playing great there. I think it all starts on that defensive front. I mean, again, talked about offensive line earlier, right? That the offensive front is so important for offenses, but again, defensive line. And yeah, if the Packers can shore up that defensive line and have the players play to their fullest extent, Montravius Adams is supposed to have been that guy for so many years and hasn't been. But
I don't have much to say about the other games, but the Raiders are 5-3. I find that's a team that has they can keep healthy. Derek Carr put 40 on the Chiefs. Like this is under the spoke. Like they're putting up points. Like
they almost made the playoffs last year.
Yeah, and they look with Brian Edwards is going to come back. Maybe he'll do something. Maybe he won't. But like if Aguilar and Ruggs and Waller are doing enough. Like kind of like the Raiders at 5-3, they're kind of a sneaky team to watch because they're not this boring team that they were in the past. They're like in these shootouts week to week. Derek Carr has been pretty damn good, and I kind of like the Raiders out of the teams we just spoke about. That I kind of like them as a team that people should be paying a bit more attention to. I think.
Yeah. Absolutely. I know Derek Carr, fantasy-wise, has been pretty good. And he's been most weeks he's been a top 12 quarterback or at least right around that line where he's definitely been startable. And it's been good to have him in your lineups. Cardinals
for the next 4 games. The only team they play the Jets, Falcons, Denver, and the Chiefs.
And they've already beaten the Chiefs.
They've already beaten the Chiefs.
In Kansas, right? So.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Sneaking. I mean, I believe they are in a playoff position right now, as things stand, or they're right there. Dolphins 34, Cardinals 31. So Tua definitely had to pass the football a lot more, which is what I think we wanted to see for fantasy. And yeah, that was a pretty good fantasy game all around for everyone except DeAndre Hopkins, apparently. But
5,500 on DraftKings. Thank you very much, Tua Tagovailoa. Thank you. Lovely. Loved it. It's fantastic.
Although Drew Lock was 5,200. That was good too. I won some money with Drew Lock.
I stacked I had Judy in there, but I stacked Tagovailoa with Preston Williams, and I had Judy in there with I did all right this week. I was pretty happy.
Nice.
Except for Justin Jackson. We'll get to him next week.
Yeah. And then anyway, so Saints 38, Buccaneers 3. And then finally, of course, the Steelers winning 24-19. So I know, Gladys, I don't know if you actually want to talk about the game, but here's your time.
No, I know. There's nothing to say except the Steelers play down to their competition, and they have to be saved by the defense almost invariably out of division when they should win by double digits. And then, of course, Roethlisberger comes up hurt, but, can trots back in and save the game. It's like a narrative that just goes on and on and on, and it's kind of getting tiring, actually. But we're undefeated, so it's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, the 8-0 part's not really tiring.
The 8-0 part's pretty cool.
Yeah. And anyone have anything to say about Sunday Night Football? Or is that the game you just toss out? And
you just toss that out. That was a ridiculous game.
That was just bad.
Who's the number one receiver for the Bucs going forward? Quickly. Throw your question at the end.
I still go with Godwin. I think when push comes to shove, it'll be Godwin. Mike Evans is getting his targets. It's just I was talking to someone about this today. They look like a team that have compiled too many players. They don't know what to do with them. They look out of rhythm. They're looking like a team that, like, okay, Ronald Jones looks like a good running back, and then we get Leonard Fournette and we just screw that up. Okay, well, now we've got all these good receivers in some capacity. Okay, let's go grab Rob Gronkowski. There goes OJ Howard again. Cam Brate, Tanner Hudson, who cares? Let's just make this even harder. We've got Miller looks good. Watson's okay. Let's go get Antonio Brown. Let's just try and throw everyone in. And in the biggest game of our year against the Saints, we're gonna spew it all out there and see what happens. That offense looked like a pile of spew. They didn't know what to do with all those players. Ronald Jones is the redheaded stepchild that no one wants. Brady throws it in. He had a tip pass. Jones saved him. This is against the Giants last week. Martinez makes a tackle. Jones isn't seen from again. Happens last night. Brady goes to pass it to Jones. Davenport intercepts. Jones is never seen again. That's like, it's this weird, sick world that
any excuse they can.
And it's just the weirdest thing, like, to watch them do this. Guy had like 100 yards back to back to back, and then Brady screws up. We'll sit Ronald Jones. He's done. Like, it makes no sense. They spew all these players out there. Their game plan looks a mess. It's just a mess. Like, I hope it calms down because that team could be fun towards the end of the year. But they are like, the Giants should have had them. That's what we're talking about. The Giants screwed that up, and the Giants should have had them. Brady can't count. The Bears got them. Like, they're walking this fine line of wins and losses. Whichever way the wind blows could be the end for them. They played a better team. They got absolutely pantsed, and that's what it was. The wind blew too hard one way, and they got cooked. But against worse teams, they should be putting them away, not a problem. With that team, they should be putting people away, not a problem. And they are getting absolutely pantsed. The Giants had no right doing that to them. Giants hammered them. And the Giants are terrible. Let's call the spade the spade. They are terrible. But the Giants took them to school. Daniel Jones was bad. Daniel Jones let them down. And they got a DPI that bailed them out at the end of the game. On Dion Lewis, if we remember, that was the last play of the game. Carlton Davis on Dion Lewis. Should never have happened. They should have lost to the Giants, which is crazy. And then they get hammered by the Saints. And they got all those players. I don't know if Brady's the problem. I don't know. I don't think Arians knows what to do with all those players to call plays for, because it just looks it just looks like a pile of spew. They don't know what they're doing.
Maybe no, and maybe it's even just not enough reps.
They're better with less. You look at when Scotty Miller was in there as a number 2 and number 3. They look better with less. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, again, maybe it's just players aren't getting enough reps, right? If everyone's having to come in, the first team is 5 wide receivers long,
And it's Gronk they go deep to. And it's Gronk they go deep to. Go figure.
The defense didn't favors either, though. I mean, the defense they made Drew Brees look good, and you got to admit he hasn't looked good all year. They were like people wide open in the end zone. It wasn't. I mean, the offense sucked. The offense was really bad, but the defense, and they're a good defense. Their defense did not look good at all yesterday.
No, they were brutal.
Yeah, it was terrible to watch.
At times, at times, I don't ever like to say players don't give effort. I don't think that's the wrong thing, but at times they look disinterested at some point. They were like, we got to go out here again.
Another punt, another 3 and out.
Just sat down. What do you mean?
I think definitely hurt the defense. How ineffective the offenses did, I think, really factor in on some defensive.
That was his 3rd intercept. We on the 20. We got to go out there again. Like they were just shot. They didn't know what was going on.
It was horrendous. It was bad. I mean,
Saints.
Their secondary, yeah. It was a really hard game to watch. Like, you think tonight's game going to be bad? That game was.
No, we're on tonight. Jets plus 10. Jets plus 10 over 41.5. Let's do it. Let's get wild. Flacco over 200 yards passing. Let's get crazy tonight. Adam Gase is going to get a win until safety for the last game of a play of the game, and $8.50 is going to cost the Jets a win. That's what we're banking. Okay.
What a narrative! What a game script that would be.
It. Jets plus 10. They're going to lose by a safety over 41.5 because of it. There we go. Let's get crazy.
Yeah, that'll make everyone in Vegas really happy, won't it?
But
yes. What a week it was, week 9.
The Jets already kicked the field goal. They're already ahead.
I told you those hamstrings. Someone's hamstrings are tearing tomorrow.
Yeah.
Someone's on the massage table. Get that working for the hamstring. Someone's in trouble.
We're gonna kick it over to the game though. Head on out of here. Appreciate everyone for tuning in, watching. You can follow your co-host. Gladys is at Never Enough GLT. Dan's at the B League Says.
Yep.
I'm at Senra Says. We like to say things apparently. And Going for 2. Shout out to Jeff Lambert and everything he does. Our fearless leader. You can follow everything Going for 2 at Going for 2 on Twitter. GoingFor2.com. Go check out busr.com/goingfor2 for that bonus. I mean, it's a little late for this Monday night game, but you've got week 10 coming up, and I think we'll all see you back here week 10. So, Dan, Gladys, any final thoughts?
No, let's get on with it. Let's get on with the Jets game. Monday Night Football. Let's do it. Let's go.
All right, we'll fly to that.
Bye, guys. Good luck, everyone.
Thank you all.
Have a good week.
Bye.